So SLA 3D printing sucks, and here's why. I bought my printer and my supplies and my wash and cure station back in December. I got a great deal, end of year, Christmas special on Anycubic's website. It's my first SLA printer. Bought it directly from Anycubic. Love the deal. Love the discounts, and the shipping time has been very reasonable. I received in late December my first shipment. Well, the day has arrived. There they are. And proceeded to unbox it and set it up. I didn't get around to using it for the first time until just after Christmas. I spent about 8 hours that first day just kind of reading the instructions, loading the software, practicing modeling and slicing. I'm not using Windows systems, so I had to make sure that whatever I'm using runs on Mac OS or Linux. Photon software that came with the Anycubic system runs fine on Mac. I found that G2Box runs on Mac and Linux, and I've learned to structure on G2Box and slice on Photon to be able to print most effectively and efficiently, but I'll get to that in a second. So, Pops, why does SLA 3D printing suck? Well, I'll tell you. First, the setup. You do need to be patient and do your setup, and I'll give you an acronym to remember it. EOS. No, I'm not referring to Greek mythology. It's an acronym for exposure, orientation, and supports. The three things that, in my opinion, are the most important things to get right, the most important things to be patient with as you're learning the setup of your new printer. Exposure is terribly important. I had failures in those first attempted prints in those 8 hours that I spent in December trying to print the Anycubic test print, which is a cube. Hold on, let me show you. It looks like this. This is what it should look like. My failures basically ended up with globs of exposed resin stuck to the FEP sheet on the bottom of the printer. I don't have any pictures of it. I wish I had taken them. But what I learned later was to really use the RERF test, the resin exposure range finding test. It comes on the flash drive included with the Anycubic printer. Just print it. It gives you a variety of prints at different exposures so you can look at them and determine your best exposure setting. I didn't bother to do that originally, and I paid the price. I had test failures. I sat down and patiently set up the exposure range finding, and it worked brilliantly. I saved all the prints, and this is kind of what they look like. Every one of these is at a different exposure, and then I wrote the exposures on the back, and I was able to figure out which ones were best for my resin. I'm using Eco resin from Anycubic, and it's not the same as other resins. Every resin you get, you should test the exposure and find out what is optimal for that resin. The O in EOS is for orientation. I've learned that orienting your models is terribly important so we don't have a lot of horizontal surfaces on the print so that we don't get too much suction and to decrease failures. And this is terribly important to figure out exactly how to orient the model you're printing to reduce surface areas, horizontal surface areas, and also to provide the proper orientation for your supports, which is the S in EOS. When you add supports, you want to make sure that you're not adding supports to key features on the model. So if you were going to tilt a miniature that you're printing, I recommend tilting it to its back or its side rather than tilting it to the face and having supports stuck right to the face. I could show you what these orientation, support, and exposure successes and failures look like, specifically with some examples. This is an SLA file for a miniature that I bought from Eldridge Foundry. You can see the difference in the exposures. Arguably, you would say that these prints all succeeded, but you can see the difference in the exposures in the results. The second reason that SLA 3D printing sucks is because it can easily become an obsession. I'm burning through resin. I'm setting prints while I'm going to bed and getting up when the long prints are done. In the last 2 weeks, I've printed over 115 models. Now, some of them are small, some of them were gigantic, like the Tarrasque I had to print in pieces. This is just the tail of the Tarrasque. Yeah, it can really become an obsession. The good thing is it's not terribly expensive. The prices have come down on these equipment and supplies. And if you're smart, you can find the resin, your primary consumable, at very inexpensive prices. I buy directly from Anycubic. It doesn't mean you have to. I know a lot of folks that buy different resins to use with different printers. Just remember the first reason that SLA 3D printing sucks is you need to take your time and be patient. And remember EOS. Set up your exposure. Take time to orient your models properly. Add your own supports. Then you'll find yourself directly in the second reason that 3D printing sucks, in that it'll become an obsession. And you too can have all kinds of unpainted minis waiting for your attention. I strongly recommend checking out the Patreon page of MZ4250. This fellow veteran has modeled every creature in the Monster Manual and many other models for many other adventures and expansion sets. Check him out, link below.